Welcome, hackers. Today we're going to take a look at the origin feats in the 2024 Player's Handbook. We discussed them briefly in a video about the backgrounds that you can see a link to above me, and I'll add a link in the description as well. As I've stated previously, I'm making these videos based purely on information that I've gleaned from other content creators. I do not have access to the Player's Handbook yet. I am just a tiny minnow in a big pond.
You can help us become a big fish.
Or at least a big minnow.
Just subscribe to the channel and smash that like button. Now, tell me about some of those feats.
Okay, Cletus, I'm on it. First one we're going to talk about is the alert feat. The alert feat says, initiative proficiency. When you roll initiative, you can add your proficiency bonus to the roll. Initiative swap. Immediately after you roll initiative, you can swap your initiative with the initiative of one willing ally in the same combat. You can't make this swap if you or the ally has the incapacitated condition. The bonus to initiative is going to be less or the same for the majority of the character's career compared to the 2014 version. You also lose the features of not being surprised, and that creatures don't get the advantage on you just because they're unseen.
Sounds like it got worse.
Well, the origin feats are not as powerful as the regular feats. So all the other feats are a little toned down as well. But this version also has one new powerful ability. It allows you to switch positions in the initiative order with other players. That may not sound like a huge benefit, but I often see players wanting to go earlier because they want to cast spells before the bad guys are interspersed with the good guys. Healers might want to go later because nobody needs healing yet. Martial characters can wait until something gets into range if the battlefield is large, or charge in and control where the fight takes place, away from the casters. There are a lot of possible reasons to switch places, up or down, in the initiative order, and this is something I could see being used often. I'm giving this one a 5 out of 5. Next, we go from the best to the worst. The crafter feat says, tool proficiency. You gain proficiency with 3 different artisan's tools of your choice from the fast crafting table. Discount. Whenever you buy a non-magical item, you receive a 20% discount on it. Fast crafting. When you finish a long rest, you can craft 1 piece of gear from the fast crafting table, provided you have the artisan tools associated with that item and have proficiency with those tools. The items last until you finish a long rest, at which point the item falls apart. There could be a case where you are using artisan's tools in your regular adventuring day in a creative way, but most of the time artisan's tools go unused. So having several different proficiencies isn't all that useful. 20% off on gear sounds good, except that it is non-magical gear. Very little gear in the 2014 version costs more than 50 gold. So you might save 10 gold pieces. You could potentially break the game if you can convince your game master that a tavern should be able to be purchased for a 20% discount, and then you could resell it, or a large boat, or a castle, but I think we can all agree the dungeon master will probably nix this idea. The final thing it allows you to do is to create an item from the fast crafting table. There are only a couple items associated with each tool, and they are not super useful. Weaver's tools, for example, allow you to make a basket, a rope, or a net. Sure, a rope is often useful, but they also cost next to nothing, and this rope falls apart after a long rest. You are such a good crafter, your stuff disintegrates after 24 hours. Lame sauce, and we already spent too much time on it. 1 out of 5. Let's move on. We get back on track a little with the healer feat. It reads, Battle Medic. If you have a healer's kit, you can expend 1 use of it and tend to a creature within 5 feet of yourself as a utilize action. That creature can expend 1 of its hit dice, and you then roll that die. The creature regains the number of hit points equal to the roll plus your proficiency bonus. Healing rerolls. Whenever you roll a die to determine the number of hit points you restore with a spell, or with this feat's Battle Medic benefit, you can re-roll the die if it rolls a 1. You must use the new roll. Previously, stabilizing a dying creature cost none of the kit's charges and granted the player 1 hit point. This isn't much, but it got a player back into the fight. That has disappeared, but they both allow you to spend a charge from the healer's kit to heal a player. This was a sliding scale before at 1d6 plus 4 plus additional hit points equal to the number of hit dice the target has. A first level fighter would gain 1d6 plus 5, and a 10th level fighter would gain 1d6 plus 14. With the new version, it is their hit dice and your proficiency bonus. If you are the same level as the fighter, that would heal him for 1d10 plus 2 on the first level fighter and 1d10 plus 4 on the 10th level fighter. Both instances average 8.5 at level 1, but the old version gives 17.5 at level 10 versus 10.5 at level 10. And the new version costs that fighter a hit die that they now can't use to heal with later on. The trade-off is that in the old version, you could do this one time per short rest, and now you can do it as many times as the player has hit dice. That may be a lot at higher levels, but worse at lower levels. This feat does give us something else though. It allows for rerolls of healing dice that roll a 1 from this feature, as well as any other sources of healing we do. This means we can reroll healing dice for spells as well. Is this a big boost? Probably not. Rerolling a d4 gives them an average bonus of 1.5. A d6 is 2.5, and a d8 is 3.5. But that is only on dice that roll a 1, so it will not happen as frequently as you might think. The d4 only has a 25% chance of re-rolling for an extra 1.5 healing on average. So average healing only goes up by less than half a point. The math is about the same for all the dice. Just under a half point healing isn't a lot better, but it's better than nothing. I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. It's pretty average. Even though it sounds like I dislike this feat compared to the old version, this is pretty even compared to the other feats. Lucky is another feat that took a nerf. The new version states, lucky points. You have a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus and can spend the points on the benefits below. You regain your expended luck points when you finish a long rest. Advantage: when you roll a d20 for a d20 test, you can spend 1 luck point to give yourself advantage on the reroll. Disadvantage: when a creature rolls a d20 for an attack roll against you, you can spend 1 luck point to impose disadvantage on that roll. The first change isn't too bad. Originally you get 3 luck points, and now the number is equal to your proficiency modifier. A little bit lower at the beginning, but quickly gets better. The nerf comes when you use it for advantage or disadvantage. In 2014, you could decide after you roll the die whether you wanted to use it or not. Now you have to decide before the roll. While the new roll could always be lower than the regular one, at least in the old version you knew you needed it. Now you might use it and get 2 good rolls and it was wasted. Suppose you think you need a 10 or better to hit the target. If you roll lower in the old version, then you use the point and have a 50% chance of success, and the point being well spent. In the new version, you decide first and roll. 50% of the time, the first roll was good enough, and it's wasted. Of the remaining time, the second roll fails also 50% of the time. So only 25% of the time was the point useful, and you only get 2 at the start and 6 at the most. I'm still going to give this a 3 out of 5, because it's on par with the other Origin feats.
Another feat that seems worse than the previous version. What is happening? I thought this version of the game would be better.
Yes, Digit, these feats seem to have taken a bit of a downward turn. It is important to point out that these are Origin feats. They seem to have designed these feats to be a little weaker than normal feats. Regular feats have unbalanced the game a little in the past when they were available at first level, for example with the variant human. And so the ones they offer as Origin feats are toned down a bit. Let's take a look at the Magic Initiate feats. It is a single feat, but it seems to be broken up by what spell list you choose. Here it is. 2 cantrips. You learn 2 cantrips of your choice from the Cleric, Druid, or Wizard spell list. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability for this feat, chosen when you select this feat. Level 1 spell. Choose a level 1 spell from the same list you selected for this feat's cantrips. You always have the spell prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot, and you regain the ability to cast it in that way when you finish a long rest. You can also cast the spell using any spell slots you have. Spell change. Whenever you gain a new level, you can replace one of the spells you chose for this feat with a different spell of the same level from the chosen spell list. Repeatable. You can take this feat more than once, but you must choose a different spell list each time. There are a lot of reasons that a player might want to grab this feat. A wizard might want a druid spell, for instance, or a half-caster like a ranger or a paladin might want access to something they don't normally get. Even martial characters could benefit from a couple of cantrips and the shield spell, for example. I would make this a 4 out of 5 except for one thing, and that thing doesn't even have anything to do with the feat itself. To get this feat, as an origin feat, you have to take a certain background, and it might not be a good background for you. For example, maybe you want the Magic Initiate Druid feat because of your wizard. The only background that this is on doesn't have a bonus to intelligence, so a wizard probably won't take it. If a ranger or a paladin wanted Magic Initiate Cleric, they would have to take a background that doesn't boost strength or dexterity. This is all outlined in my previous video about backgrounds, so I won't harp on this anymore, but I think it makes this feat a little worse overall. So we end at 3 out of 5. Next is musician. Everyone online seems to like musicians, so let's take a look. Instrument training. You gain proficiency with 3 musical instruments of your choice. Encouraging song. As you finish a short or long rest, you can play a song on a musical instrument with which you have proficiency and give heroic inspiration to allies who hear the song. The number of allies you can affect in this way equals your proficiency bonus. Pretty simple, and heroic inspiration looks pretty good. Early on, you are not applying it to very many party members, but it grows as you level. Hopefully your players don't end an adventuring day with their heroic inspiration still in their pockets like mine usually do. If they don't use it, it isn't much of a boost. If they do use it, it could be very helpful. This one could be great or lousy depending on the other players. I'm going to assume the player granting it will remind the other players about it, and pushing this up to a 4 out of 5. Now from a good feat to a bad one. Savage Attacker. Savage Attacker says, you've trained to deal particularly damaging strikes. Once per turn, when you hit a target with a weapon, you can roll the weapon's damage dice twice and use either roll against the target. Sounds pretty solid at first. Roll for damage twice. Take the best. But remember, it is only the weapon's dice. No sneak attack, no smite, no elemental weapon, or any other spell buffs. Also, you have to decide after you hit, but not after you roll the damage the first time. Similar to the lucky feat, this might not be a good benefit if both rolls were good or both rolls are bad. Most of the time, this might add a couple points of damage to the roll, but depending on the character and the level, it might be insignificant. A rogue with a d6 weapon but 10d6 sneak attack just rolls a single d6 an additional time. This might change a 37-point hit into a 39-point hit. A fighter with a 2d6 weapon is going to often be closer to the average damage on each roll, meaning even higher damage weapons are unlikely to make a huge difference. Especially at higher levels, with multiple attacks, adding a couple damage to one attack in the round doesn't register very much. This is a 1 out of 5 for me, but let me know in the comments if you disagree. That applies to all these other feats as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how they rank. Skilled is next, and it reads, you gain proficiency in any combination of 3 skills or tools of your choice. Repeatable. You can take this feat more than once. This is a solid feat, and skills are always something that is important in a game. I was torn between a high score because making skill checks can be important in a game, and a low score because you might already have that skill from your class or background, or someone else might have the skill and can complete the check for the party. In the end, I think I'm making this one a 2 out of 5. I'll probably get a lot of flack for this one, but a lot of the skills a player will need can be gained from other sources. Another good one is the tough feat. Your hit point maximum increases by an amount equal to twice your character level when you gain this feat. Whenever you gain a character level thereafter, your hit point maximum increases by an additional 2 hit points. Hit points are perhaps the most important resource in the game. I debated giving this one a 3 or a 4, so I just cheated and gave it a 3.5. It's my video and I can rate it how I want. In the end, if you are looking at backgrounds that give you good stat bonuses for your class and don't like the other feats that the other backgrounds offer, then this is a solid feat that will help any character. Finally, we have Tavern Brawler, which gives you Enhanced Unarmed Strike. When you hit with your unarmed strike and deal damage, you can deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength modifier instead of the normal damage of the unarmed strike. Damage rerolls. Whenever you roll a damage die for your unarmed strike, you can reroll the die if it rolls a 1, and you must use the new roll. Improvised weaponry. You have proficiency with improvised weapons. Push. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike as part of the attack action on your turn, you can deal damage to the target and also push it 5 feet away. You can use this benefit only once per turn. This feat is kind of a mixed bag. It looks like it will be great on a monk, but pretty useless on other characters. But then a monk doesn't get all the benefits from the feat either. The enhanced unarmed strike feature isn't of use to a monk, and most other characters won't be making very many unarmed strikes. Even if they do, the average damage increase is only about a single point. Rerolling damage on a 1 is the same average boost as well. A monk gets a little more benefit from the reroll as they level up and their damage increases. The best part is the free push. Being able to move a monster around on a battlefield is very useful. You can move them into hazards or away from other party members. It is a good feat, but limited on who might want it, so I'm only giving it a 3 out of 5. These are the origin feats and my thoughts on them. More videos will be coming out soonish to discuss all of the regular feats. I'll probably break that one down into a couple of different videos since it is a lot of feats to go over. Turn on notifications so that you know when I release those videos. And until those videos, keep on hacking the dungeon.